Daisies and fuchsias and tulips, oh my! In the spring, I love to see pops of color from flowers after months of winter blah. So today's video theme is spring flowers. 3 flowers, 3 products, 3 techniques. Let's get started. I used this new Flower Bouquets stamp set from Pretty Pink Posh for my first card. It has several pots and vases of spring flowers, and I chose to work with the daisies in the picture. When I want to die cut the same stamped image several times, I use this hack with my MISTI. I cut it once from a piece of cardstock, and then I place the cardstock in the corner of my MISTI. I line the stamp up in the hole, and then I cut the piece as many times as I want, pop each one into the hole, stamp with black Copic-friendly ink, and get perfect placement every time. And I'll keep that template with the stamp set for future use. You'll notice that I'm only stamping the flower portion, and in fact I didn't even cut the whole die cut each time. That's because I'm going to use only the flowers for my card. I wasn't sure exactly how many I would need, so I cut 9. Next up is a lot of Copic coloring. Because I had 9 to color, I kept it simple with minimal shading and bright happy colors. I won't leave it all in, but I did want to share a small but crafty life-changing hack that I got from my friend Amber. After years of thinking that I needed to work on an absorbent surface when coloring with Copics, I noticed that Amber works on glass. I thought I would give it a try, and I loved that immediately it got easier to blend my colors because they stay wet longer, I guess because they're not soaking into the paper behind. I did find that it's also easier for the inks to bleed outside the lines a bit, so I am more careful about that while I color, and I'm still getting used to it, but so far I like it quite a bit. Another quick tip, when I'm coloring the same thing over and over, I find it easiest to do one color on all of them, then move to the next color, and so on. The last thing I did was add some cool gray to my daisies to make them look like I didn't forget to color them, but they still look white, if you know what I mean. My card panel is navy blue. If you've been here before, you know that I love the contrast and drama of black on my cards. But lately, I've been thinking that other dark colors, like this navy or dark brown, can also give that drama without being quite so stark. I heat embossed the sentiment from the set with white embossing powder, and then I built a kind of frame around it by popping up and overlapping 8 of my die cuts. And yes, I had 1 left over, so I made another same but different bonus card. Smaller navy panel, and this time I colored the background with a navy marker and I glued it so it was hanging off of one edge. Moving on to card number 2, I used the new Flourishing Fuchsia stencil. This one has a number of different floral and leaf images, and it's meant to be moved around to build a scene rather than blending ink through the whole thing at once. You could mask, but I was living dangerously, and I decided against it since I used sponge daubers to blend my inks. These give me good blending and lots of control, but sometimes the edges of the stencil can cause damage to the sponge tips themselves, so that's something to be aware of. Now the other thing about fuchsia is that they actually hang down, so I'm working upside down here. I found that my brain just had an easier time with placement this way. I kept moving the stencil and using a variety of the flower images, and then I filled in the bottom, or is it the top, with leaves. Here's a quick masking tip for the leaves to create some depth without a lot of work. The first leaves I blended were at full strength. As I filled in the leaves that I wanted to look like they were in the background, I used a lighter hand and I didn't blend over the areas where there was already a darker leaf. It's like masking with your brain, and it's so much easier than trying to create specific masks, don't you think? Once I had my little scene created, I used a large blending brush and softly blended the same colors over the leaves, and then before I did the pink, I trimmed the panel down. I knew I was going to make a square card, so I didn't need that extra blended space at the top. I let the pink fade out as I got closer to the leaves so I wouldn't get any muddiness. I spritzed the panel with shimmer spray and then added an older sentiment stamped in the corner, as well as some jewels for more sparkle. My third card is a double faux. Faux inlaid die cutting plus faux stained glass. Faux inlaid die cutting is a great technique when there are tiny little pieces in the die you want to inlay. This new Tulips cover plate is mostly larger pieces, but there are a few small ones at the top and between the flower stems, so this technique is a great alternative. I started by adding a sticky sheet to the back of my gold pearl cardstock before cutting it with the die. Then I used the same die and some white cardstock and my embossing sandwich, and I ran it all through my die cutting machine. This gives the impression of the flowers, and when I put the gold outline over it, it kind of clicks into place, if you know what I mean. I use Copic markers to add colors, and I have a few tips. 1. To create a kind of glow, you want quite a significant contrast from dark on the outside of each area to light in the center. This will make it look more like stained glass. I started by going light to dark and then back to light, but I found it wasn't that different than just going from dark to light. These areas are fairly small and easy to blend. Check back with the outline quite often and go back and fill in if you've left any white space. It's okay to color where the gold will cover the outlines of the flowers, but you don't want to go beyond that or it'll show. Don't worry that it looks ugly. Yes, I know, it looks ugly, but those gold outlines are going to clean everything up beautifully. I promise. I used some aquas for the glass and I added a waterline. Truth be told, I kind of wish I hadn't done that, but you can learn from my mistake. Finally, I colored in all the surrounding space with some pale yellows. Again, I worked from dark to light, and along the way, I found a number of my markers need to be refilled, but that's a whole other topic. When I finished coloring, I spritzed the panel with shimmer spray and then peeled off the release paper from the gold outline panel and carefully put it down on the colored panel. Then I ran it through my die cutting machine, just the panel between the plates, no dies. This helped to really press that gold outline into the white panel, and now it really looks like an inlaid die cut. I hope these happy spring cards gave you some ideas for making your own. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.